True lovers, if your love life had a greatest hits album, would it be titled Oops, I Did It Again, Volume 9? Because let's be real, some of us keep dating the same emotionally unavailable person just with a new tattoo and a slightly more spiritual playlist. If you keep thinking, this time it's different, but your therapist and your group chat know it's not, this one's for you. Hi, I'm Haim with Beloved Media, and today we'll chat about the juncture between the wisdom of the Tao Te Ching and your love life. I'm passionate about helping true lovers like you connect with partners who actually align with your soul, not just with your attachment style. I always have that slight reluctance to confess my crime of having 3 failed marriages before I found and married the love of my life and my best friend, now my wife, Rachel. You can only imagine, not that I'm proud of it, but I guess it was necessary lessons for life for me to grow from that I just couldn't learn any other way. We all have our karma, and mine was pretty rough. You can imagine how much heartache and pain and suffering went through it. I did get an amazing child out of the last relationship, which just so happened was my worst marriage, my worst relationship, the most toxic one. So it's like I didn't even learn anything from marriage 1, marriage 2. But hey, it is what it is, and I've learned what I've learned. The happy ending of it all is that around the beginning of the pandemic of 2020, I realized how rough I had it with lacking self-love. I realized I was able to crystallize to myself, it all comes down not for this kind of mistake or that kind of bad decision. I just didn't love myself enough to gift myself with choosing a good partner, a healthy partner. Forget about true love, just the emotionally stable, emotionally healthy. But yes, I then decided that even that is not enough. I want true love. And I remember sharing it with one of my best buddies. And I said, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody kind. I'm looking for somebody generous. I'm looking for somebody who's gonna be passionate about spirituality like I do. I'm looking for somebody who is a giver. And he told me genuinely, and he's truly one of my favorite people in the whole world, but he has a certain relationship that has a lot of rough moments in it. And he said, Haim, what you're looking for doesn't exist. I can't forget he said that. And I remember telling myself, you know what? I can't wait to prove you wrong. But it meant to me one thing and one thing only. I had to become that person. I had to become a person that he said doesn't exist. I had to make sure that I am kinder than I was up until that moment, more generous, more compassionate, more empathetic, so that I can attract the same. So before we dive into verse 9 of the Tao Te Ching and the squeezing whatever wisdom juice we can out of it for your life, go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because spiritual growth tastes better when it's algorithm proved. Algorithm approved. You see, I'm far from perfect. Let's quote verse 9 of the Tao Te Ching based on the translation done by Mitchell. Better to stop short than to fill to the brim. Over sharpen the blade and the edge will soon blunt. Amass a store of gold and jade, and no one can protect it. Claim wealth and titles, and disaster will follow. Retire when the work is done. This is the way of heaven. Unquote. So here are 5 wisdom points from verse 9 and what they mean in your romantic search. Right after that, as promised, 3 practical tips for your dating life. Wisdom point number 1, better to stop short than to fill to the brim. What does that mean? Don't overdo the chase. Healthy love doesn't need to be forced. If you're constantly trying to prove your worth to them, true lover, it's not worth it. And that could not possibly be more true for who I was before I met Rachel. I didn't think that I was worthy of love just because of who I am. I felt like I constantly needed to prove myself to whoever was my partner at the time. So I was the best boyfriend that I could be. I was the best husband that I could be. Problem is, it wasn't genuine. It came from chasing their approval. Big mistake. Because no matter that I was my ex-mother-in-law's favorite son-in-law, it wasn't real. And guess what? Several years later, it came down crashing. Because it's okay to say sometimes, you know what, I don't feel like doing the dishes right now, mother-in-law. Because at least it's real. But if you want to do it because you want to. Not because you feel like you need to prove something. Nugget number 2, over sharpen the blade. What does that mean? Perfectionism kills connection. If your checklist has 87 criteria, including must own a kayak, you might be sharpening the blade so much that you miss the actual point. Connection. And again, this nugget blows my mind because I've been through that, right? Even after my 3rd marriage failed, and I realized, okay, I gotta follow the wisdom of the Tao. I gotta follow whatever principles out of Buddhism and Kabbalah that I cherish to make myself better so I can attract a better partner. Guess what? I was one of those people who had 87 criteria, but it did not include must own a kayak. It wasn't 87, it was a couple of dozens. But then, because I was so busy with shadow work, because I was so busy with self-contemplation and introspection, I was like, am I missing something here? As I was reading this verse, am I missing something here? Does it really need to be 20 items on my checklist for my future true soulmate? And I did a lot of thinking on it. And I realized, what if it was only one? And there's a lot of resources you can find online that talk about, including a wonderful book that I read years ago called Be Your Own Dating Service. Not very spiritual or anything very deep. It's actually a thin book with a bunch of practical advice. But one of the good advices that I got from there was, as you go on your pursuit to find your true soulmate, create a list of what are your non-negotiable that you have to have with that future partner so that you can have a potential good life with them and be a good match for each other, and create your can't work with that list. And then the point of this verse is narrow it down. And I did that. I did a lot of work on that. And guess what? I was able to crystallize it to one thing and one thing only. She has to be kind. And I'm not talking about you meet that hot girl or that super handsome guy and you're like, oh my God, I gotta have this person. They're amazing. Infatuation comes into place. Your vision is blurred. You can't see straight because you're so infatuated. And you're like, oh yeah, I saw them petting a dog. That means that they're kind. Maybe not. Maybe they just love dogs. Maybe they do it because they love dogs, not because they want the dog to enjoy it. The point is, look for true kindness. Do they go, this is my favorite point, do they visit their grandma? Do they visit their parents? Do they do something for their family members? Or do they only make that phone call to that friend when they need to borrow a drill or to borrow their truck? Gotta pay attention. Number 3, amass gold and jade. No one can protect it. Don't be dazzled by surface sparkle. That 6-figure income, those crystals, or that curated IG grid don't mean emotional maturity. True wealth in a partner is found in character, not clout. When I was single, I was dating this young woman briefly. And as I came into her house, it was clear that she moved out a huge house, if I remember correctly, because of a previous failed relationship. She was a single mother, God bless her heart. And her tiny apartment was cluttered with spiritual items. She had, I don't even know how many Buddha figures. I don't know how many this kind of dream catcher and musical instruments, but you could barely move in that house. Now, if you know anything about spirituality, decluttering is a huge deal because it implies simplicity. And Buddhism, Kabbalah, and Tao Te Ching are, especially Tao Te Ching, huge on simplicity and simplifying your life. So I knew that on one hand, she loves Buddhism and she loved Hinduism and she loved all these spiritually inclined items, but she missed one big point: simplicity and non-attachment. By the way, huge element of Buddhism, non-attachment. And she was all about it, but she was obviously very much attached to all this clutter. Just a clue. Claim wealth and titles. Number 4, disaster will follow. Claim wealth and titles, disaster will follow. What does that mean? Ego-based relationship tend to crash hard. If someone constantly needs to be seen as the catch, they might not have the humility to actually build something real with you. And it's so evident when you go on dating sites, when you go on social media. When you see somebody with 1 million selfies, you ask me, beware. Based on this wisdom, beware. They are looking, they're maybe addicted to these validations from others, from strangers, by the way, mind you. When I had Facebook, I got myself to a point that I had 5,000 friends. When I met Rachel and I started to understand what I'm sharing with you now, I quit Facebook. And you know what? Never missed it. But I'll be honest, when I had it, I was addicted to go through my feed and see who liked my posts. I was addicted to see all those shares from other people with their sparkly, perfect life. No, I got over it. Number 5, retire when the work is done. Know when to let go. If you're trying to save a relationship that's clearly not flowing, you're not loyal, you're leaking energy. The Tao teaches us, release is not failure, it's grace. I remember in my previous relationship, my last failed marriage, I was contemplating towards the end, should I quit? Which of course, you can imagine how terrified I was to go into my third failed marriage, my third failed marriage, my third divorce, this time with a kid, and with a difficult partner, which only implies that the divorce will be horrific, and it was to many extents. But I went through it. It's a story for another video. With this, thanks to this wisdom. But towards the end, I caught on a video on YouTube, and it was a very short video. It was a 3-minute video, but it was talking about gaslighting. It was explaining what gaslighting is. Again, story for another video. Phenomenal concept, not just to know cognitively, but really understand how it looks like when you are interacting with other people, especially when you're in a relationship with them or you're considering a relationship with them. In my case, I was considering leaving. And it says, gaslighting is all about one person making up stuff to drive the other person nuts, to make them doubt that they are even sane enough to know what's real, what's not. And he said, the person on that video said, if you two can't even agree on what reality is because they keep making stuff up and trying to make you doubt yourself, you can't create anything together because you can't even agree on reality. So Sometimes it's time to let go, and sometimes it's okay to fight it. However, one thing I can tell you, when you're starting to date someone, do not do the mistake that I did with previous relationships and in previous instances of dating. Don't look at a relationship like I did from the get-go. I gotta marry this girl, or I gotta make this thing happen. No, it's an interview process. It's absolutely okay to let go of a dating relationship once you realize this is not for me. I'm not for them. They can find somebody better, and I can find somebody better for me. So don't panic like I did, that no matter what, I'm staying with them. Before you know it, you're moving in together. Before you know it, somebody's proposing. Before you know it, you're in a relationship that's not going anywhere. Lastly, 3 practical pieces of advice. Thank you for sticking around until now, from verse 9. 1, practice mindful dating. If it's feeling too intense, too fast, or too curated, take a breath. Leave space for the organic to unfold. And here is a good time to throw in, don't get physical too quickly. In one of the opportunities I was dating somebody, I decided that I'm gonna go 10 dates with her without getting too physical. And you know what? Even though that relationship never made it beyond that, it was an amazing experience for both of us. Yes, there was a heartache at the end of it when we broke it off, but because we're just not meant for each other. But it was awesome 10 days because it wasn't about getting in between the sheets. 2, watch for ego over essence. Ask yourself, are they connected to who they are or just to how they're seen? Choose substance over show. A lot to be said about that, and you can see a lot of it on social media. I don't think I have to elaborate at this point. Number 1, last one, learn the sacred art of enough. When it feels peaceful, not performative, that's enough. You don't need fireworks. Sometimes a candle flame is more enduring. It's okay to be with somebody as quiet as Rachel, as subtle as Rachel, as soft-spoken as Rachel. My previous relationship, loud as can be. It didn't really do anything good. It was fun at times, but it just was competitive. Thank you guys for sticking around until now. True lovers, if this message hit you deeper than your last situationship, like this video, comment below with the red flag you're finally done falling for. Share this with someone who needs to stop sharpening their blade. And subscribe to Be Love Media for more wisdom, laughs, and loving truth bombs. Because love isn't about filling your cup till it spills. It's about knowing when it's just right. And remember, if you're tired of dating lessons, maybe it's time to start dating blessings. Stay soulful, stay hydrated, stay out of toxic group chats. Until next time, keep loving wisely, true lovers.